Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Good morning. Marvelous Monday morning it is, yes. And I'm Blakeney Hodges stepping in, obviously, for Terry Slavens. And we don't have Angela Robinson with us, but we're still in very good company because we're joined by Jim Kennedy as well as Aaron Kennedy. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Takes two of us just to make up one of hers.
So, what's on the menu for your life planning, financial planning today?
Here we are going into our last season of the year, which is Christmas, and there's a lot of spending going on, a lot of joy, a lot of blessings, and sometimes we think there's a lot of emotional spending, so people spend maybe more than what they should, and we want to talk about wrapping up this year and then what we need to be thinking about for next year, because the year is ending, we can't stop thinking about what we need to be doing for next year in the years to come. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit.
It's probably a perfect season too, because like you said, I never thought about that, but probably is a little more emotional spending around the Christmas holidays, the nostalgia and everything of the season. So. But you have to you got to remember your budget. I mean, the money's there or it's not. So
it's there, yeah. Of course, that's right. So the businesses, their job's to market, and they do a really good job of that. They make you want something, and look at Black Friday. I mean, all you had to do is turn the TV on, and it knew that I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But people go crazy.
Oh, it went all through the weekend too. I ran into Aaron at a store yesterday, and I was like, it was still just jam-packed full of people.
Yes,
and
it
then
was
you have
crazy.
Cyber Monday today, so.
Right, so they make it think like this is the end of the world. This
Yeah,
is your last chance to buy anything. So
you're never going to get a TV this cheap again ever until July.
Right, that's right. So that's kind of what we're going to discuss. We're going to kick it off with Aaron talking about the market. We've seen a lot of volatility, a lot going on with that, so it's going to kick it off with Aaron talking about that today, and then we're going to kind of go from there.
What's happening in the market, Aaron?
The market has been very, very volatile recently, and it's not all that abnormal what's going on. The market goes through, on average, 2 corrections a year, and as of right now, we're still in correction mode. So a correction is anything between 10 and 20% down a year, and we average over 2. So what's going on right now is not abnormal at all. And really what's being hurt the most is some of these tech darlings that have just skyrocketed over the last several years. And if you think about it, that's where everybody's been. Everybody expects to make the most money in those tech names, and everybody has them in their portfolio. So when they take this drastic a drop, it feels worse.
Because it affects a lot more people.
Yes. People get so greedy at tops of markets. Everybody's portfolio is weighted to those. Mm-hmm. That's what they've been buying. Oh, Facebook's number one stock. That's all I'm going to put my money in. That's painful. It's a lot more painful right now to the average person than it should be. The market actually looks pretty good economically. The numbers look great. Our GDP growth is great. Unemployment is historically low right now, and we still have a lot of room on the participation rate. So there's still a lot of fuel to economic growth, but people are just worried. Now, from a price standpoint, the market looks good. We're selling at about average PE multiples. So the amount that we're willing to pay for companies' earnings, we're a historic average right now. We're not way, way overpriced like we've been over the last 10 years. So it's a lot better place to be. And until something changes economically, I would not be freaking out right now. I would not be making a lot of changes to your portfolio unless it's end of year rebalancing. And I think we'll talk about that here in a minute.
Good job, Aaron. I mean, I think this is one thing that always concerns clients is, should I be investing and should I not? And, the way we look at that is this is the first day of the rest of your life. How long is that going to be? So just these last few months, even, it seems to be very volatile, but we got to think about the future, not just today. And so we need to stay invested. And like Aaron says, I think the rebalancing is a big key. But let's talk about just real quick at this year end, what's going on. People spend an average of about $800 to $900 on average for Christmas, and that's medium spending. A lot of people that make a little bit more income are going to spend $1,200 to $1,500 a year. And think about that: is it really, are you buying things that's really needed for Christmas, or are you just buying things because of the emotional side of what's going on with the stores in town and on what you see on TV or the latest thing out there? And, it's just kind of step back and say, is it something that's necessary? Is it something I really need? How long would it last even if we got this for, the children, for each other? And find out, because it's, spending like that is, once you spend it, you usually don't, you don't get it back. And most of the time, a lot of times that spending stuff ends up at Goodwill.
Yeah, or in a garage sale.
Yeah. And it's not really, it's not something that's necessary. And what Christmas, I think we failed to remember what Christmas is really all about.
Yeah.
And it's about a family and being thankful and having time to spend together. Even though our joke around our house is the prettiest lights of Christmas is the tail lights of everybody going home. we really enjoy having everyone in our place. So I think that's a good thing to remember. So what you're spending, think about how it's going to affect your budget. Also think about what's going to be left on that credit card, at the end of the month. Can you pay it off? If you can't pay it off, don't buy it. That's just a good general rule, because you're going to be paying interest, and interest on credit cards is going to be very expensive, and you're going to be paying that for several months. And wouldn't you rather have that money being earned in your 401k, your IRA, or just put it back for a rainy day, for an emergency fund?
Yeah.
I think we just forget sometimes about the emotional spending of Christmas and thinking we have to give a gift for someone. And, I know old school thinking sometimes, but making bread, jelly, things like that, and handing them out.
I was just going to say, like, not canned goods, but, things that you can, like jellies and pepper jellies and things like that.
Yeah, things something, every time they open the jar, they're going to remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so always ask Grandma when she leaves money to the grandkids, do you want to remember you one time, or how would you like to remember them every year for the next 20 years?
Yeah.
So they're, remembering each time they open that lid to a jar of jelly or bread, saying, wow, this is really great. It's very thoughtful somebody would do that. So we might think about how we spend our money. And I think we would do it differently if we put some thought into it. So wrapping up in the year, let's look at next year. What do we need to be doing? We need to be looking at what our goals are and what our plans are. Look at our long-term goals. Are we meeting those? What's keeping us on track? And I always like to say, what would happen if? And Aaron, why don't we go ahead and talk about rebalancing portfolio just a minute and get your view on that, because a lot of times people, when this market is like it is, it's a good time to rebalance, especially your long-term retirement plan.
Yes. So how about whenever we come back from our first break, we will discuss that. Does that sound good?
That's
That
good.
sounds great.
Okay. Keep it tuned right here. Life Planning 101, KATX and KWBY. And welcome back in to Life Planning 101. You're listening to KATX and KWBY, and we are continuing on with our discussion this morning in the life planning, financial planning area of kind of year-end wrap-up. We're doing a little bit of market watch this morning. We've got Aaron, the market man, in. And I think we were fixing to throw it back to you to discuss
Rebalance.
We're going to talk about rebalancing. Yes.
rebalancing. It's a good time of year to talk about that.
Yes. Every time I come on here, I really try to hammer home the idea of getting your risk right. And it is so important because the market actually goes up and down. And we have to understand it goes up and down. And if we can't handle the down part, you're not really investing. You're actually doing more gambling than investing. And that's the reason most people earn between 2 and 3% a year instead of the 10% that the market delivers. That's because they jump in when it's going up, and then the first sign of things going sour, they get out. And it loses people a lot of money. So when it comes to rebalancing, we always want to rebalance to our total risk tolerance, not to how we feel about the market at that time. If you haven't rebalanced in the last several years, you've got a lot more stocks in your portfolio than your risk tolerance, because the market's done so much better than our riskless assets or our lower risk assets. So if you've never rebalanced your portfolio, if you're a typical person that had a 60-40 portfolio or 60% stocks, 40% bonds, that's drastically different. Now you're sitting almost 75% stocks and 25% bonds. And that's not the risk you're probably wanting to take. So it's a good idea to rebalance. Lots of research out there about how often to do it or what your tolerance band should be. But, on average, once or maybe twice a year, the most efficient thing to do. There's a couple things to look out for. Number one, if it's in after-tax accounts, better watch out for those taxes. Those can eat into your profits quite a bit. Also, ticket charges. Unless you're in a 401k, it costs money to buy and sell stuff. You want to keep your costs down as low as possible. And one thing you can do if you have a retirement account and an after-tax account, look at it all as one portfolio. So, if you have a bunch of stocks in your 401k, maybe use munis to rebalance everything in your after-tax account. So overall, your risk tolerance is right, but you have your most tax-efficient investments in the taxable account. There's lots of ways to do that and lots of ways to make it efficient. And you just need to take a large view of what you have and where you need to get for your risk tolerance.
Something we all need to do. Sometimes we don't want to do it because we don't know what to do. So the second part of that is might need some help.
Yeah, exactly.
Might need some help. So I'm going to give you some numbers here, just kind of think about our future goals. But average retiree that retires only has 12% of the money they need to retire on, which is not good. So what does that tell you? They didn't plan. Yeah. 1/3 of Americans have less than $5,000 in savings. Average saved for retirees around $84,000. So just to give you some numbers here is at age 45, you've got an income of $75,000. You should have about $255,000 set aside right now. So if you're not where you need to be, you probably need some help planning. You need to rethink your budget, how you're going to get there, and that's from Investors Daily News. That's not what we came up with, but we can tell you at any age based on your income what money you should already have. And of course, if you don't have that, why? The question's why, and we always look back at that and say, well, it's all because our discipline is caused by our behavior. And so we go back to the Christmas spending. Is it emotional or is it needed? What's really the goal here? One of the things we ask kids a lot of times is, would you rather have this gift or would you rather be taking care of mom and dad someday? They would rather not take care of mom and dad. They would rather you take care of yourself first. So remember, without you, a lot of things don't happen. So you need to be taking care of yourself and your future because there's a lot of expense in the coming years. And the number one way to do that is with your budget. I think of all the people we work with, all of our clients, we encourage them to budget. But the ones that do the best job of budgeting are also the ones with most peace because they know exactly what they're going to spend. but when they're going to spend it, how they're going to spend it, and they're on track to save more, retire on more, maybe retire earlier. You know, we have a client right now wants to retire, and yet he's still spending. So, bottom line is you can't retire. You know, you're going to have to keep working. So which is more important? You're spending now or retiring later?
Yeah.
So it's a question that you ask yourself. And it's a lot of times we know the answer, but we just don't want to change our behavior to create the discipline.
Yeah.
And that's the important part.
Okay, well, let's take our last break here for this Monday morning on Life Planning 101, and we'll be back very shortly on KATX and KWBY. Life Planning 101 continues on KATX and KWBY. It is the final segment for this marvelous Monday morning. And in studio, we have Jim Kennedy as well as Aaron Kennedy. And we're kind of doing a year-end wrap-up, looking into the new year, already talking about that.
That's right. So we kind of wrapped up the year-end, what to be thinking about. But now we're going to kick off the next year, and we're going to be thinking about your goals. And I want you to think about just fill out a financial statement. If you had to go down and borrow money, what would you list on it? You want to list everything you have. And that means everything. It means all your insurances, all your investments, anywhere you've ever worked. You might have had group insurance. And we find out a lot of times people have benefits from some previous job they forgot that they had. So if you had to leave this earth today, who would know where all that's at? And it's really important to have a list of everything so someone can get their hands on that information, because we find a lot of times that no one knows. And that information, if it's money, insurance, that'll end up going to the state if you don't claim it. So you want to make sure that you know those things. Look at your beneficiaries. Things change. People pass away. People get divorces. Kids sometimes become irresponsible, and you want to make sure that you have the beneficiaries not only listed, but how they get something and when they get something, because that's real important. We can't leave a 3-year-old something. You got to leave it to someone that can help the 3-year-old. You might want to leave it for the 3-year-old, but make sure someone's there responsible. Mm-hmm. Insurance, you need to look at what's insured, how it's insured, and if you need to, what you need to change on that. So having a complete review of all your insurances is really important. That includes your life insurance. Things have changed a lot, so don't take it for granted just because you get a statement everything's okay. It needs to be reviewed and looked at by a professional that knows what they're looking at. If you work for an employer, look at your bennies on that, your beneficiaries, find out if you're putting all you can back in your retirement plan. Make sure you rebalance, like Aaron says, in your 401k, retirement plan. Look at those things and make sure you're keeping up to date on it. Also look and see how much you're saving, just like the 45-year-old needs to have $250,000. If you don't have that, what do you need to get there? And that's important, because the old person that you're going to be someday is only going to be taken care of by the young person you are today. And you've got to be planning to set that money aside. And then there's life changes. That could be a number of things, from disability, sickness, to move, to losing your job, to getting a new job. And there's pros and cons on both sides of that. But like we see it all the time, people get a new job and they go work somewhere, and then they lose that job, and the income's back down to where it was before. Mm-hmm. So just because your income's going up, don't go spend that money. Don't go buy a new house. Go set that money aside, that even if you went back to what you were doing, because you're in a business or an industry that's really moving forward right now, your income could drop back, and you don't want to get caught, because that's hard on your credit. And if you own a business, it's really important you do business planning. And not only as a business owner, but as an individual, you've got to look at your tax situation. Income taxes are very complicated nowadays. Take a look at it on the back of a matchbook and you're done. It's just not the case. It's very complicated. So I think it takes two people to help manage taxes. And that's That's your financial planner that does tax planning, and it's your CPA. They work in conjunction. If it's estate planning, it's going to include your attorney. So there's 3 people involved. So those out there that have estates, and doesn't mean they have to be an estate tax problem. It just means you've been successful and you got issues, how you going to pass things on to others. But what's the taxable event of the things that you want to do? So it's very important you get help with taxes. And we want to wish everyone a happy New Year, a Merry Christmas. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And we just, as we say in our office, we want everyone to live life on purpose. And, that means taking that first step to say, I can't do this job alone. I've got to get help. You got to remember, you only lived your life one time. We've lived your life through all the clients we worked with and all the years we've been in business. And those experiences, you can't buy those. You can't, you can't live them until you've done them. So, getting help from professionals is so important. And we just wish you all the best of this coming year.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Colton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Colton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.